Hi, I'm Scott Kaplan, and I'm a result leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
You are listening to the only show on the internet dedicated to the men and women who are getting results for their clients. Welcome back to another edition of Results Leader. So glad that you're here. And as always, we have another amazing interview. If you want to double your bookings with sales tips, those are tactics to improve professional sellers, then you're going to love today's interview with international best-selling author and speaker, Mr. Scott Kaplan. Let's jump in. Scott, welcome to the show. It's been a long time in the making. Are you ready to rock this thing?
I am, JR. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, let's get it. So, how about a quick win for our listeners? What book have you given most as a gift?
Well, the last couple of months, it's been my own book because obviously I'm proud of that. But I've given a ton of sales books out over the years. So I try to really tie it to the role or what people are doing. So, back in the day, it was a lot of Steve Schiffman style books on his cold calling type stuff. But I'd say over the last decade or so, two really kind of come to mind. Obviously, the Challenger Sale to really help people think about things differently. And I'm pretty tight with one of the co-authors, Matt Dixon over there. I just think he's a great guy. And another one from one of my peers in the industry, her name is Trish Bertuzzi, called The Sales Development Playbook. It's a great book for the BDR leader or the BDR rep, really trying to go out there and drive things. I took more notes in that book than probably any other book when I read it.
All right.
But I will also say, though, when I give out a book, I always do a request, JR, that might be a cool add to your listeners. Do a book report for yourself. Do those quick notes so you can go back and refer back to those books in a 10 or 15 minute read. So I have a great Challenger Sale 15-minute read, and I can get the details, and I read it every 2-3 weeks just to kind of remind myself of those things and keep it top of mind.
Now, I like that little book report idea. That's excellent. And I'm going to be quite vulnerable and ignorant here. What is BDR?
Business development rep, I apologize, or a sales developer.
As soon as I asked, I knew what it was.
It's not uncommon, but I appreciate that. I'm good on acronyms. I'll try to be cognizant. But those making cold calls, those setting appointments, those following up on our leads, those people who are doing that type of entry-level sales role, it's tough, especially cold calling. It's probably one of the toughest things that are out there. And so, obviously I train and do a lot of things in my book about it, but I think Trish does a really good job as well.
You gave some kudos and we appreciate that, but at least let us hear the name of your book.
Yeah, I was intentionally trying to be cool and not do it. But no, the name of my book is Quick Hit Sales Tips. It kind of gives 10 tips for a professional seller, really something you can go out there and practically apply. And then I give kind of 5 bonus tips for unique situations, like how to rock a trade show or how to do a sales demo and some of those different things. How do you sell through channel? But just great tips for professionals to really increase their sales capabilities.
Excellent. Now, it's story time, and our listeners want to hear a story of how you turned an apparent failure into a success.
Yeah, so I love looking at what I kind of think of my daily failures, little things I could always do better and get more impactful of. But I go back to a story that I've been telling people for many, many years. And when I was just starting my sales career, 400 people, call center style environment, one of the top reps worked right on the other side of my little cubicle wall. And one day he stood up and he goes, "Scott, you ask great questions. There's only one problem." I'm like, "What, Chris?" He goes, "You answer them." Don't. And so I was like, "That's brilliant." Okay. So I started asking questions, and I actually had to have reminders for myself. I used to keep kind of a rubber band tied around my 3 fingers on one hand to remind myself, don't answer the question. If I wanted to answer the question, I'd flick myself. But it really taught me, that failure of, if you're going to ask questions and you want to hear people, you want to hear their problems, you got to let them speak. You got to learn how to ask better questions and keep letting them tell you more about it. And that's something that I just kept with me throughout all my years of selling. A good reminder, if you're going to ask a question, let someone else answer it.
Okay, so a couple things I want to unpack there. I've often heard that asking better questions gets you better results. And I'm curious what your take is on how you get better at asking questions, the right questions.
Great thought process. And, a lot of things that I do to help my clients and the sales processes I put together and the sales trainings I put together, it's heavily revolving around questions. So I make that one just a common part of my daily practice of what we do, how we do different things, and making sure that I can finish comments with a phrase like, so let me ask you, or so I can tie this specifically to your world, let me know, or let me ask you, or let me figure out if you can kind of do those different types of dynamics. So the first one is just being aware and being intentional. The second big piece about questions is knowing what type of questions to ask with what you're trying to listen for and hear to understand. Some questions will give you data or history, which are great for framing the problem. Some questions will help you understand the business impact, what they cannot do today that they need to be able to go out there and do tomorrow. Some questions are designed to understand how important is it for that person, that champion or that buyer or that executive to actually take an action to move forward or to buy something that's out there. And so you have to know different types of questions and what to listen for to be really effective. So when people say, you got to be an active listener, sounds great. And in theory, it is great. But how you do that or how you ask those questions means you have to be very specific in what you're trying to achieve with the questions and what you're listening for with those answers to know those different types of dynamics. But I break it down in something I call the fact discovery process. It's just an acronym. I know FACT. The F is the fundamentals that give you that data and history. A gives you their ability to move forward, like the decision process and people and those different items. The C is the customer impact, right? What are they going to commit to because they are having problems with their business that's limiting their capabilities or hindering their progress? So that kind of speaks to what they're comfortable committing. And the T is their timeline to act on the commitment, not timeline to go forward. How important is it to you? How does this rank across your priorities? Would other executives say it's also a priority to go forward? What are you trying to do this month or this quarter with a shorter time frame that speaks to my, as the champion, or my ability as the decision maker to determine how to go forward? So those are some examples of how you can think about the different types of questions and the answers you'll get to know how to kind of determine how to go forward.
So I want to give you credit. When I asked you the question and you repeated back to me, that's a great thought process. Kudos for you not using the word question there because it might have gotten confusing. Great question. So nice work. Way to sidestep that landmine I left there for you. And the other thing is, I'm curious if you can speak to this very quickly.
Yeah.
Why do you think that some of us, because my wife is so guilty of this, I catch her doing it all the time. Why do you think people answer their own questions?
I'm sure there's a few different reasons that are out there. One, they're probably not being intentional with their questions and they're just kind of free flowing. And when you do that and you have insecurities with that, you feel like maybe you're putting people off or you might be too intrusive. And so because it's not intentional, because you're not doing it as deliberate as you want, you have insecurities that pop up. I think it's more that fear of being pushy or not really sure if the question sounded smart. Do I sound dumb? And those types of things. And there are some questions I intentionally sound dumb. It's not because I'm an ignorant person, but because I want to get clarity, right? I don't understand. People say it'll cost me way too much to do something. I don't know what that means. Can you help me understand? Like, what does cost too much mean? Right? And those types of things, it sounds like I'm ignorant, but it's not. I don't know what that means to you or how that impacts what you're trying to do in your business. I got to unpack that. And so I think as people get more comfortable with questions, and they are getting good with it, it helps out a lot. So like one game I play all the time as I train people, if you've ever watched the show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's just a comedic show. And they just go back and forth of asking question after question. You have to ask a question. You can go out there and play that game and you'll start to realize, I can get 3 or 4 or 5 questions out. And it just gets you comfortable with questions at the spur of the moment as you think about that. And you understand how different questions will start to work. And so I think that really helps people just to overcome that anxiety and that fear of the unknown with the question, that they always have to have the answer. You don't. Engage clients, understand what's going on, what it impacts them, and know the different types of questions to help you guide the questions you want to ask.
I'm just going to keep riffing on this because I think I like questions too much. Don't think I'm weird, but hey, let's have some fun here. So I have used, and I'm wondering what your take on this is, because I'm not one of these people that loves to go to chamber mixers or to events. I don't want to work a room. That's why I'm here on a podcast talking to people that we've vetted. But I have actually used questions as almost a defense mechanism not to have to talk about myself. And so I play a game when I go out and I have to be at one of these events. Let's see how many questions I can ask before they finally stop me. So have you ever tried anything like that?
Oh yeah, all the time. And, you could even make different jokes about, when you go on a first date, like I was talking with my kids, I'm like, if you're ever nervous about like what the conversation is about, just ask questions. Ask about their day, why they like that day, what makes their days great. Like just ask questions and kind of go from there. But I've even seen people, they ask questions that they think are nice and polite. But when you ask someone you don't know, hey, how are you today? A lot of people really don't necessarily care. Now, again, I'm a very pleasant person. I can say, I hope you're having a great day. But I don't want that question to be my conversation starter, right? So, for example, like a trade shows, I think is a great example of how we can go out there and ask questions. And think about a trade show. People are walking by all the time. You try to get them in your booth and those different dynamics. And I was going to a conference once where it was about communications, internal communications and external communications. And the company I was supporting was an internal communications platform. And so as people were walking by, I'd go, internal or external, right? Because you go out there, they make brief eye contact with you. And if I say internal or external, what's the response going to be? What? Now they're looking at me. Now they're engaged. They're confused. Great, internal or external communications. Just kind of curious to know what's more important to you. Now I got to ask the question that's out there, right? Or what do you think is most important to the businesses? Or what do you think other people are saying? What's more important out here? I'm kind of taking a poll. Now people are engaging with you and you go out there and do it. And in that event, I was the one bringing everyone in and people knew I could get people into the booth really easily. Then, the other sales leaders and stuff would come in, swoop in, kind of have the relationship. I'd, peel off, bring somebody else in. Because it's that little type of engagement strategy in this scenario, a stupid little question, that really helps kind of engage people. But I knew the intent of what I was trying to do with the question, going back to my previous point. I knew it was meant to get eye contact, get you to kind of say, hey, what? I don't understand, so that I could talk with you, because everybody else just wants to see the tchotchkes you have at your booth and then not make eye contact and move on unless they are looking for you specifically. So how do you get that buzz and how do you get people to kind of be more apparent and part of you?
I dig it, man. And now that I've taken us way off script, we're going to come back to what is the most worthwhile investment you have ever made?
Best investment I ever made was Apple, well before there were splits, when they were at $20 way back in the day. Yes, but that's a long time ago. No, but two things. I think from a personal and professional perspective. So personal, obviously my kids, right? I'm sure you've probably heard that from others. But when we talk about investment, I don't just think of investment as dollars. It's your time, it's your energy, it's your resources, it's your heartache, right? And so many different items. And it's about things that you care about, that you want to see flourish, right? And so I'm very fortunate. My wife and I have a blended family with 5 kids, and we're constantly investing in them so they can be happy, they can flourish in their own adventures and relationships and endeavors in life. So I think from a personal perspective, that's huge. And then from a business perspective, probably more recent is I really took the investment on myself and started my own business a few years back. And when I really wanted to go into consulting, it's not just the investment I'm trying to make from a people perspective, but I'm now enjoying my work so much more. I'm enjoying my customers so much more. And I feel like I'm really building something, that is really helping people, which is what I really wanted to set out there and do. So I'm very happy with where my business has gone over the last couple of years, and lots of opportunity to keep pushing it forward.
Scott, what are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
There's a few. I guess the thematic one that I see a lot is I see a lot of poor coaching for managers. And when I think of different managers and how they can really drive things, managers are the people that take the strategy to the front line and help drive the change in the organizations. They're probably the most critical piece of an organization, but we don't train them on how to be good coaches or how to go out there and really help their reps. And so I see a lot of managers doing poor coaching or not understanding coaching, or what I call drive-by coaching or no coaching at all. And so making sure we can really drive managers to be that focus, I think, is critical. On that note, since I'm in the sales world, I think we all know or have heard the jokes of, what are the ABCs of selling? Always be closing. I've changed that to always be coaching. Or if you're a rep, always be coached, right? And making sure you can have that constant development to make sure that you're achieving things and continue to be at the top of your game.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a public service announcement. We're going to get right back into this show, but I wanted to ask you a question. If you have been listening to the show for any amount of time and you've picked up even one single tip, then I need your help. Get the word out. Tell people about resultsleader.fm. Share it on social media. Share it on your email. Share it anywhere. Hashtag resultsleaderfm. Now let's jump back into the interview. Why do results matter?
Ooh, that's a great type of thought process. So results matter because it gives you that measurement for success or that measurement to build success upon. And so I think results start to answer the question, are we successful holistically or in that specific activity or in that endeavor that we're trying to go out there and do? But it also tells you where you can ensure to continue to get successful, right? So are you making progress on your results or on that growth or on that metric that you're trying to go out there and get to? Because ultimately what we're trying to do is figure out the results that we can go out there and reproduce and we can scale and we can grow it. So how you go out there and look upon those measurements is really critical. And I work with a lot of companies that are in the hyper growth type of stage. They're going from 2 million to 5 million. They're going from 20 million to 80 million in a 2-year time frame. And so when we look at those types of dynamics, you want to measure and grow the types of results. Now, more specifically in my world, that sales world, we'll look at different key metrics and results we want to get to because we know activities like lead conversion based activities will help drive other results of close rates. Or how do we get sales attainment? Or do you hit your quota? Or how much do you hit that? Or other results, how quickly can I hire people and get their quote unquote ramp time to be more effective? Or retention of our clients. So there's other key measurements that will give you good indicators of the business and the activities we need to do to drive it. And so I like to look at those measurements and KPIs and metrics to make sure that we're aware of and tracking our business, but they give us the right indicators for success, measure success, and see how do we continue to grow upon that success.
What area of your business would you like better results?
I got to get more scale. I'm a small business and that's out there. And I'm very passionate about what I do. And when I talk with board members, executives, CEOs, CROs, they really buy into me. My processes, my background. I mean, I'm fortunate I've trained over 20,000 sellers and sales leaders over the last 2 decades. I know, so I'm kind of my key front man that's out there. I mean, I have a few other employees and contractors that I go out there and use and leverage. But I need to get more scale with my offerings, some better offerings, how I can launch maybe some additional things, maybe online, or hire more customer-facing people to drive more opportunities for my business. Not just to get more money, but to get more reach in terms of what's really at the core of my business. How do we help sales teams? How do we help go-to-market teams be a lot more effective day in and day out? But I'm pretty close to my threshold right now, so I got to figure out ways to do this pretty soon.
Fair enough. What results are you most proud of?
Well, I think I already mentioned my 5 healthy and I hope happy kids, right? Or at least relatively happy kids, and those different dynamics. Probably one of the results I'm most happy in. I've had a pet project for a long time of launching a sales book. And, for one reason or other, for many years, it didn't come to life. But I did launch it in kind of mid 2022. And one of the results that I'm probably most proud of with that is I got to become an international best-selling author in four countries: Australia, UK, Canada, US. But it's not just that the book did well. I think what I'm most proud of is I didn't pay for marketing. I didn't pay for a lead. I didn't pay for someone to buy it. I went to my network. And I talked to them about what I'm doing, position what I'm doing, and I asked for their help. And my network responded. That means they believe in me and that they want to see what I have to offer. They need what I'm offering. And for them to respond in that fashion, for me, the weekend that I launched the book, to get that international best-selling status across those 4 countries was really important to me, especially because I didn't buy it. It was all because of my ask and my internal promotion on LinkedIn and other channels, just to go out there and let people know what I was doing. So I was really proud of that.
Any parting thoughts you'd like to share with the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
Yeah, I think I got one that I think is probably most important in terms of things that I've looked at most recently and how I can go out there and really think about something that I've changed most recently or been a lot more focused on over the last 5-10 years. And the word I'll give is intentionality. Really being intentional with what you're trying to do or how you're trying to do it. And so I gave examples with that when we were talking about questions. Being intentional or specific of what you want to see and what you want to ask and kind of go from there. But this is, manifested in multiple aspects of my life. And for example, another pet project that my wife and I have is a website that we have called Power of Intentional Kindness. It's just there to talk about kindness stories and how people share kindness and what we do. And we carry kind of these kindness letters around us. When we see people do things that make us feel happy, or we thought was, a good atmosphere, or a good person, or a good vibe, we want to share that and highlight that. So we have a little letter, and I won't say what's in it too much, but we kind of highlight, hey, you did something that we thought was really positive, right? And so with people being intentional, whether it's intentional your actions or your reactions or your decisions or your communications, or obviously in that specific, your intentionality with your kindness gives you a lot more control, gives you a lot more power to the world in which you want to go out there and live. And so I like to, make sure I can empower that in there. I like to change how maybe little phrases, like instead of JR, have a good day, JR, go make it a good day. Those little nuances that are out there, I think really help put that intentionality into the world in which we want to go out there and make.
Powerful. I know our listeners will want more from you. Where can they get it, Scott?
Well, I would love to talk to any one of your listeners that are out there. So my book name and my company name are the same. It's quickhitsalestips.com. So feel free to go to my website. You can always drop me a line there. You can shoot me an email, Scott with 2 T's, Scott@quickhitsalestips.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Scott Kaplan with a K, Kaplan. And if you guys mentioned the show, say, hey, I heard from you from JR or from Results Leader or anything like that, what I'll do is I'll give you a copy of my book. And if you read at least one chapter, then I'll give you a free coaching session with it. If you take the time to read it and want to learn, I'll take the time to help you out, free of charge.
I'm going to get me a free book today. Let's go.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Scott, thank you for hanging out with us, Results Leaders. We'll be back in your earbuds next time. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.